Today on the patio, we're making the most epic pizza that I've ever made. It's gonna have 3 different kinds of cheese in it, and it's gonna be stuffed with Wagyu beef. Let's get into it. What's up, barbecue fans? Welcome back to the patio. My name's Jake. You're watching Roman Cook. Today on the channel, I'm working on this stuffed steak pizza. I've never made it before, but at work, I drive 30 minutes to get it for the team every once in a while as a treat. It is phenomenal. Now they make it with plain old ribeye. Today we're gonna step it up a notch. Before we can do that, we gotta fire up a bit. So now that we've got our Joe fired up, the one thing to note, you might have noticed, I used a ton of lump in there. I'm actually doing a few videos today, and a couple of them are gonna be high heat ones, so I need a bunch of lump to keep me going. Normally you don't have to use that much. For today's video, it's gonna be done in a couple different stages. First and foremost, I made the dough yesterday, and I didn't show that in this video because I made a large batch, so the quantities wouldn't make sense for you. But if you're into baking, it's about a 70% hydration dough, maybe 68%. But I'm actually gonna be doing a video on all the things you need to know about making pizza at home and dough, because there's some things that I really struggle to wrap my head around with, and I think that you're possibly having the same thing, so I'm gonna make a video on it. If you wanna see that, subscribe down below. But getting back to the griddle, the first time I used this, I had some comments, people asked me how to clean it. Put all that work into seasoning it, you use it the first time, and it's still got a little ways to go before it's gonna be super non-stick and you're gonna get some things sticking to it. The easiest way is just to rinse that off with hot water. Do not use soap, right? Soap's gonna go through the seasoning. When it's really well seasoned and you've got a good buildup of it, you can use a little soap from time to time. It's only gonna take maybe a layer off, but when it's new, you don't wanna do that. Take some coarse kosher salt and pour it on there, and then get a piece of paper towel and use that like sandpaper. That'll take off a lot of the grunge on there. The other thing you can do is you can get one of these guys. I'll put a link down to one of these below, but this is like a chainmail. They've got a couple different versions of it. This is the one that I found that works best for me because it's a hard, it's got like a foam behind it, but it's actually hard, so you can put a little elbow grease in there. But what this will do is this will take all the buildup on there and take it right down without hurting your seasoning. For this guy, what we're gonna do, we're up to 450. We'll tone this down a little bit, and this we'll have to get the temperature. Now this just sits on the top of the divide and conquer rack, right in the center, sits there nicely. People ask me about the grease drip here. It's way out of the way of the lump. So unless you've got a roaring fire down there and it's taking up the entire Kamado Joe, I don't think you're gonna have a problem with the grease fire at all. But you could rotate that and put it in the back if you wanted to. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this guy get up to temperature, and I'm shooting for probably around 350-ish. So we'll adjust our domes. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna leave this open on the 3rd line, and then I'll close this down to an inch, and we'll see where that leaves us. That's gonna take a good 10 minutes to preheat. So while we're waiting for our griddle to get up to temperature, we can make a little sauce. Just gonna take some crushed tomatoes here. And then what I've got here is a good tablespoon of minced garlic. And in here, I've got maybe a teaspoon and a half of sugar. The garlic got it all liquid, but it was just plain old white sugar. We want a little bit of sweetness, not too much though. This is just gonna help take off the edge. Normally I would use wine to do that, but I'm not gonna do that today. Then we've got a tablespoon of oregano. Same with basil. A little bit of olive oil. Maybe a tablespoon and a half there. This is Diamond Crystal Kosher salt. Maybe 3/4 of a tablespoon. Get up my pepper can in here. We'll get some fresh cracked pepper. And again, about 3/4 of a tablespoon. Perfect. We'll give this a stir up. Now this griddle is going to get too hot for this, but we'll be able to get this up to temperature. And this is actually not going inside the pizza. Now we'll just put that in the middle so we can still close our dome here. Now this was only up to 300. I just put the griddle on, so it's going to take a little bit to get the temperature. I may have to give it some more airflow, but I don't want to get too hot. We'll get that sauce going for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'll probably just put it inside on low to let it simmer for the rest to cook. So it's been 10 minutes. Our griddle just got up to about 400 degrees. I just checked the temp here. It's probably come up a little bit higher, but 417 in the middle. This has actually been sitting on for 10 minutes. It's just getting to the point where it's going to be too hot to leave it on there, but it actually stayed on there for a while and did pretty well. I'm actually going to dial back my vent now because I do not need it getting higher than 400 for the next part. But in that 10 minutes, our sauce is nice and thick now. I'm not going for a super thick sauce, just a general sauce. We're going to let this cool down inside now. I'm just going to put it on simmer to keep it warm while we get on the next steps. Let me throw this inside and go get the meat. When I went in to get the meat, I took the dough out of the fridge. Dough, if you proof it in the fridge overnight, or even if you buy it the day before and just keep it in the fridge in the meantime, you pull it out about 60 minutes before you're going to use it, 90 minutes top. After that, it'll start to overproof, but 60 minutes is a good time frame. And let's talk about this meat. So I don't know how much meat we're going to need for this. More is better in my book. But I gotta say thank you to Snake River Farms. They have their black grade Wagyu New York stripped sliced all up in here. I'm not sure if it's sliced this way or how it's sliced. I actually have not used this before, but when I think of stuffed steak pizza, I think Wagyu is gonna make it an amazing pizza. And Snake River Farms partnered with me on this one and sent 2 packages over here. Just to give you an idea, these packages are 22 ounces. This one's 25 ounces, almost 26 ounces. So we're gonna have almost 50 ounces of meat in this bad boy. Just to keep my hands clean. See how this is sliced. I have a feeling it's probably lengthwise. We're gonna break it up much like a cheesesteak for our filling. Let's see what we got here. Oh, wait a second. This is not sliced as thin as I expected, to be honest. What do we got going on here? Oh no, we are. So look, we got really, really thin slices. Perfect. Get this guy open. I think a Wagyu cheesesteak sounds pretty good. You could use this for that. All right, so they're all sliced the same, and this is just a New York strip that's been sliced down here. It looks like we've got about 7 or 8 pieces here. Now we need some high temp oil or something for this. For this cook, I'm just gonna use some beef tallow, and we'll open this up. And we'll take our steak here. So yeah, we're about 8 slices here. This is gonna cook quick, but what we wanna do is we're gonna break this up and just break it down once it gets cooked, just like a cheesesteak. Tell you what, it's a lot of steak. I'm gonna close it up here. Actually, before, oh, I almost forgot a piece. I'm gonna put that right there for now. And what we'll do is we'll do some salt, pepper on here. I'm gonna clean this up. I'm gonna give that about 3 minutes, cook the one side, and then we'll flip it over. It's gonna be well done. All right, but we need to break that up a little bit, and we got to get it cooked so it'll break up. So I just realized I made one critical mistake. I had the bottom vent open only 1 inch, so I didn't get too hot for my sauce. When I put these guys on there, I did not open it all up. So I opened it all up. We're gonna let it come up to temperature. It's starting to rise a lot quicker, and then we're gonna start chopping up our meat. All right, so that didn't quite work out like I expected. The pieces are just a little too thick. You know, when you make cheesesteaks, you can just take a blade and break it all up. But those are really, really thin pieces. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take a serrated knife here and break a lot of this up. I want it really small pieces. Get rid of that one piece that I kind of overcooked. So other than a couple pieces we had to sacrifice, the rest of it turned out pretty good. It's not the consistency that I'm actually looking for. This might have been one of those videos that I should have done a test run on, but for me, if you've been here for a little while, you know I do everything in real time on camera. If I make mistakes, I kind of talk my way through it and let you guys know what I would change. I mean, this will still be good. More of a, almost like a grind. Really fine, like hamburger meat, really. And that'll do that. Let's go get our dough. So in typical Jake fashion, I thought I had a round aluminum pizza tray that I was gonna make this pizza on. I can't find it. I don't know where the heck it is. So I had to change things up a little bit. And what I did is I put the grates in and I put my pizza stone there. And this has been going for about 20 minutes or so. It's at 425. This is my dough. If you guys want to get into making dough at all, I highly recommend you get some of these containers. These are smaller ones than the traditional like pizza shop size, but if you're doing Neapolitan style pizza, you can get 5 250 gram balls in here. These are 500, so I had a 500, a 400, or 250 in here, no problem. But I'll put links down below. I've got a couple of them, but they actually, in like a beer fridge where you've got a little bit more height, they'll stack. Even maybe normal fridge, depending on how the shelves are set up. But now you can get 10 pizzas in there. Let's put these guys aside, and we'll put a little flour here. The other thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this container to make my pizza in. Not what I wanted to make or use, but I think it's gonna work okay. I was looking for a flat tray where I could stuff the pizza and then roll up the edges. So we're gonna kind of roll up the edges inside of this. We'll see how it works out. This backyard cooking, folks, it's almost never perfect. This is just 00 flour. Put a little on my board. I've actually got a fair amount underneath the dough balls here. So this is just a everyday paint scraper. We're gonna separate, put a little flour on your line here. Separate your dough balls. A little more on the edge. Now normally what I would do is I would actually put them in a ball of flour first, or bowl of flour, but we're just gonna put a little on top. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna roll this guy out. I'm trying to get this pretty thin. This is gonna be our bottom piece. One thing is you do not want all this extra flour. Roll these edges a little bit. Now this part doesn't have to be perfectly round. Just want it fairly even, right? So what we'll do here, we'll lay this in here. Try and get it kind of centered here. So we have 3 different kinds of cheese. We've got regular provolone. And we'll get our steak out here. Now we've got some smoked provolone. Perfect. You know, there's 2 pieces left here, so we'll just layer that up like so. And then we've got some mozzarella here that I just freshly grated. I mean, I think if you don't like cheese, this is not the pizza for you. The big thing here is I want to keep my edges up, so I've got something to tuck. Because I want to actually remove the final product from this container. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this aside, get our other dough ball here. All right, get this back here. Now, just for reference, these were 500-gram dough balls, so you can see we stretched out perfectly. This is probably a 12-inch pan. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some excess dough away. And most of this is stuck together already, but I'm just pulling them up. I'm going to push them together. The one that's over the edge here, you can just use the edge of the container to push them together. All right, like so. And then, just to make sure it all stays together, I'm going to take a little bit of water here. And now I'm just going to roll this in like so. I just put 3 holes in it there just so it doesn't puff up. I don't know. Put this on here. We're at 450. Now I'm putting this directly on the pizza stone because I've got some insulation here. Not worried about burning the bottom. I'm gonna let that go for about 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna get some olive oil and a little bit of butter, and we're gonna put it on the outside just to help it brown up. I'll bring you back when we get to that step. So it's been a few minutes. I've got some olive oil and I put a couple tablespoons of butter in there. I wanted to get the top a little cooked before we did this. Now we're gonna put a nice helping of this over the entire top. I'm gonna say we're gonna let this cook another maybe 10 minutes. So we're gonna cook that for maybe another 10 minutes. I almost forgot our 4 cheese. We got some pecorino cheese here. It's already shredded. Now we're complete. So it's been about 25 minutes. I think we're done. Now ideally I would have liked to have the top cooked a little bit more. It's close. I'm worried about burning the bottom is the problem. Yeah, and if I go any further, it's gonna be burnt for sure. So, I think this will fit on one rack, will it? Just. All right, so we don't need 2 of those. Definitely looks pretty good. Already there's a couple things that I would change about it. So I used way too much oil. So it took a long time to get the top to cook. The other thing is that it really needs the other pan. The other pan is like a round one with a lip that's maybe 1 inch high, and then it's just easier so you don't end up this way. I end up with a whole bunch of unusable crust here that's not going to have the steak to it, but it actually looks pretty good. I'd say the bottom is a little bit overdone, but for a first attempt, I'm pretty happy with it. This is going to take a good 5, probably 10 minutes to cool down. Super hot. I cranked this up to 550 right at the end, try and get some more heat over the bottom. The other thing I would change is I would do it at 500. Do it a little hotter, do it a little quicker, and you could probably put the oil on right away to help crisp this up. One other thing that I did do is I took a knife, it was starting to puff up a little bit, and I punctured a whole bunch of holes in it. just let the air escape. But what we'll do is we'll let this cool down and then we'll try it and see how I did. So it's been about 15 minutes. This guy's still pretty warm, but I think it's okay to cut into it. Now, you know what they say about men in sizes. I said that the pan that I used for this was 12 inches. It was actually 14 inches. This finished pizza is 12.5 inches, just so you have some reference. I underestimated the size. And for this, we're gonna use a blade cutter. This is really good on pizza. If you make a lot of pizza, you should get one of these. The reason is if when you use a wheel, you tend to push toppings around. This will make it so you won't push any toppings around. So we're gonna make a few cuts here. Bottom dough is nice and crispy. Now, I gotta be honest, if there's one video I was like halfway through this, I was like, might have to cancel this video. I didn't have a lot of faith in it. Didn't quite go as I expected. I had to make a lot of changes, but I think we turned out okay. I mean, look at that. Our bottom crust is a little darker than I want. And actually not quite as much cheese on the bottom as I want, but lots on the top. I think definitely looks like what I was trying to achieve, just I would like a little bit more cheese on the bottom. But I think we actually did pretty good here. Let's move this aside and have a piece. Now this is served with a sauce on top. As little or as much as you want. A little bit too big of a piece for my mouth. That, my friends, is delicious. Really, really happy with that. I mean, I gotta just confirm. But it's staying together the way I wanted to. A little bit of that sauce on the bottom. Almost exactly what I was looking for. There are a couple things I would change on this. I'm gonna share those in a second. Before I can do that, I wanna talk about the contest. So on my channel, we do a contest every video. At the end of the month, I'll draw 4 winners from the Tuesday videos, 4 winners from the Thursday videos. All you gotta do to enter is be subscribed to the channel. You gotta like this video and you gotta comment down below with 2 hashtags. For this video, we'll use hashtag Snake River Farms. They supplied me with the Wagyu beef, and hashtag stuffed steak pizza. Comment down below with those. If your name is randomly drawn or your comment's randomly drawn, I will give you a $25 gift card to atbbq.com. And if you happen to be a Patreon member, starts at $5, I'll double it and I'll make it $50. So I'll do 4 drawings for my Tuesday and Thursday videos at the end of the month. On to this pizza here. Number 1, the Wagyu beef is delicious. Special thanks to Snake River Farms for supplying the meat for this video, but I can tell you I've been buying from them for about 7 or 8 years at this point. They're my go-to for Wagyu beef when I want a treat. I do order it a fair amount and I love it. It's well worth the money. Don't go to a restaurant, learn how to cook it at home and you'll be that much happier because you'll get a great tasting steak that would be ridiculously expensive when you go out. For this cook here, what I would do differently is I rolled the dough a little thin. I would probably keep it about twice as thick. The other thing I would do is I would use the right pan. And I would do it at 500 with a very, very thin coating of oil on top of it. Just some olive oil or something like that. Very thin. You don't want it to pool at all. I had a little bit of pooling. It dried out now, but I would just do that. Make sure you put some knife holes everywhere and put a little bit more extra cheese on the bottom. Other than that, it's good. This should probably take in the right pan about 11 to 15 minutes at 500 degrees. I would bump up my temperatures and I would start at 500 right at the gate. Other than that, I'm super, super happy with this. I'm glad I got a whole bunch of this left over because this is delicious. I'm really happy that I pushed through and completed this video. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed yet, do so below. Thanks as always for watching. I'll see you soon.